Welcome to Lawyers Without Billboards, where we break down family law and other areas of the law. No gimmicks, no legal jargon, just real, unfiltered talk from real lawyers. Join your hosts, Steve, Patty, Jimmy, and Alexa, partners at Shewmaker Lewis, a law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. Every episode, they tackle the legal questions that matter most: divorce, custody, child support, alimony, and everything in between. They'll pull back the curtain to give you real insights on what happens inside the courtroom and beyond.
I just want to do a shout out to in my house, the now almost defunct Nacho joke.
Oh, God.
I used to get my daughter with the Nacho joke all the time. And one day she prominently declared to me about 3 years ago, "Dad, I'm too smart now. You'll never get me with another Nacho joke ever."
Never say never.
I did get her one time after that. One time I was driving her home from the horse farm, and I told her about I had a parent and a child here in the office, and the child had to talk to me privately, and the child was Mexican, which immediately her antenna goes up whenever she hears Mexican because she thinks it's a Nacho joke. And I said, and I had to talk to the child, and she had to disclose some things to me, and it was very secret, and then I just let it go. And my daughter's like 13 at the time, and we're driving, it's a little quiet, and I just knew it was just percolating. So she finally goes, "Dad, what was the secret that the child told you?" And I looked at her and I went, "Nacho business." And she got this look on her face like, "Damn, remember Miss Piggy from the Muppet Show whenever, so she
Just got mad.
And she just turned her head, and I was like, yes, got her. Anyway, so that's just what I want to say.
All right. So,
What the hell are we talking about today?
we're talking more about child custody. We spent a lot of episodes on child custody, but you know what? It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's a lot of what we do.
As I tell people all the time, you want to fight over $250,000 in a 401k, you're probably both going to get around half.
Sure.
Would you spend $50,000 to get 125? It's not a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
But how much is a child worth? And they look at me and they're like, there's no amount of money. I'm like, there it is. Right?
And
Right.
that's why a lot of custody modifications are way more expensive than divorces.
Way more
Big
than they need to
time.
be. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
That when you're talking about that being the sole issue that you're talking about,
Yeah.
most of the time,
Right.
a lot of times it.
And then the kid turns 15, like my daughter, and won't talk to you, just grunts at you or hisses, doesn't love you.
Well, and you know what?
Probably won't come to your
Our
funeral.
15-year-old, she's like a cat, right? She
Yeah.
comes out of her room to get food. Yeah. And then when you see her, she hisses at you.
Right.
Well, and
I asked her for a hug one time. She said, "Dad, that's creepy."
Well, and look, what I've told a lot of clients is that, my parents are still married, but had they been divorced when I was 15 to 18, frankly, it wouldn't have mattered whose weekend it was anyway.
Right,
Because I probably wasn't going to be.
Exactly.
I was probably going to be at one of my friends' houses or just off doing something
sports
stupid.
or whatever.
Or you.
Yeah. Well, and regarding custody, let's talk specifically about relocation cases.
Oh, is that the topic today? Relocation?
Yeah. They're some of the most expensive money.
Well, they're some of the most expensive litigation you're ever going to have. And any custody modification in general, I think, is the most expensive litigation.
It's actually referred to, or at least I refer to it when I talk to clients, as this is a relocation case. Yes, because everything's working. You and your ex-spouse live 10 miles apart, and custody's working in Atlanta. And now I had this case. You want to move to Central Ohio to
Said no one
rekindle
ever.
your relationship with your high school,
Worst places in Central.
with your high school sweetheart.
Are there?
Yes.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
North Dakota.
Did anybody hear what I said?
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Woman wanted to relocate to Central Ohio to rekindle their relationship with her high school sweetheart. So now someone's going to get the custody of the kid.
Right.
Messed up. Relocation case.
In custody. The kids stay here. Go. with the-
Kid and mom went to Ohio, unfortunately.
And that's why I grown, though, is because generally when you've got a relocation case, everything's working, everybody's getting along,
Right.
schedule's good, everything's good, and then somebody just chucks a wrench right into it.
Now, there are relocation cases where you get reassigned jobs.
For sure,
That's
for
different.
sure. I'm talking about the ones where it's a choice, not
Yeah.
the ones where it's like I just got, my job is transferring me, or I'm in the military, I'm having to move, or something along those lines.
And those are hard enough. And my advice to people is don't pick up and move if you don't absolutely have
Exactly.
to. Don't do it.
The ones I like are the ones where I'm leaving the state. I'm moving because I had to get away from him.
Right.
Right. And it's like, oh, that's not a good idea.
Shouldn't have said that out loud.
Yeah.
How many other people have you said that to? That's what I ask them.
But
We're sure shit not saying that out loud anymore.
but I also think that there's a difference in our conversations with clients if they are talking to us before they make the decision to move versus already when they make the decision after the
Right.
So I guess let's pick on Jimmy. What do you tell clients if it's before? If they actually have the foresight to call us and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this." What do you tell them?
Well, here I'm thinking of one in particular that we had gotten custody case done, and then ink wasn't even dry, and it was, "Hey, me and my new guy want to move."
It's always
It's always in person.
yeah.
Halfway across the country. And I said, okay, well, that's fine, because it was actually for his employment.
Yeah.
I said, but you need to notify. I said, when is this going to happen? And it wasn't going to be for like another 6 months. And I said, well, you need to notify Dad immediately.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't like that. Ended up waiting until like a month before they were supposed to move.
Bad move.
Told him then.
Well, technically, it was all she had to do, right?
Yeah.
The paperwork
Yeah.
stuff.
Technically, that was all she had to do.
If the evidence comes out, let's make it simple. Well, she tells you 6 months in advance, then in court, the question's asked, how long have you known about that? And she says this a month. She's lied. Yep. So, I mean, it's that bad.
And so effective. Well, and so she didn't like what I had to say.
Yeah.
She did not hire me for that second case. And then, case went to trial. She ended up, actually, Dad's modification was granted. Dad got primary. She ended up not going because it was ultimately, well, shit, if I'm going to lose custody, I'm not going. Yeah. And because of basically Dad and that, he was like, okay, that's fine. If you're going to stay, we can do 50-50.
Because Dad was a good parent.
That's what I tell people. I was like, if you're moving, you could lose custody.
Yeah.
You're the
Yes.
custodian. Let me run this scenario by you. And this is a case where I actually was a guardian.
This is a relocation case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mom.
So if people don't know, Patty serves as a guardian for other
We
cases.
probably at some point need to have an episode about guardians.
Oh, yeah,
and their
for sure.
role and what they do.
Right.
But I had a case where Mom and Dad and the kids all live in the Atlanta metro area. And the kids, Mom and the kids, well, let me back up. Dad is, both were military service members,
Right.
reserve component. Dad deploys only for 6 months. So Mom then gets reassigned to Fort Gordon. So Mom and the kids moved to Fort Gordon.
Which is about 2.5 hours from here.
Yeah, sorry, it's not even Fort Gordon anymore. It's Fort Eisenhower.
For no.
Well,
No, that one,
Yeah, that one would probably.
we're
no.
not going to get into that.
so
Different topic, different day.
So Mom takes the kids with her. Dad, he comes back from deployment. He misses out on a ton of visitation. He files a modification. Then the modification sits for like 2 years. Meanwhile, the kids who, are teenagers, they now are on the track team, on the basketball team. They now have friends at Augusta. And
They're established.
yeah, and the judge looks at me and the judge is like, and the judge was mad. The judge was really mad at Mom for moving.
Yeah.
And, thought, you basically denied Dad visitation because even though it's within the state, it's still 2.5 3 hour drive.
Yeah, it's far.
So the judge was really mad. And Judge looks at me and I was like, Judge, I hear you. I said, but my role as a guardian is to look at what's in the best interest of the children. And the fact of the matter is it's not about punishing one parent or the other. And I know you're mad at Mom and you want to punish her. Well, maybe I didn't say this, but I was like, maybe that's, attorney's fees.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
But they said the children are established. The children are doing well. The children
Thriving.
The children are thriving.
Thriving. They're thriving. Kid's in juvie, but he's thriving.
Thriving.
Recommendation, and the judge did follow my recommendation. I said my recommendation is not to pull them back to Atlanta.
And from one of our previous episodes about the broad use of Official Code of Georgia 1993, attorney's fees in a custody case, the judge could absolutely say, I'm going to give custody to Mom or to Dad, but the other side's going to pay the attorney's fees. Absolutely.
That's what the judge did.
Yeah.
But I guess the point in that case is, and the flip side of it is Dad really rested on his rights. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So that's the other kind of flip side of a relocation case. If you're the parent,
Act now.
yeah.
Well,
you know,
and that's
The
another
king,
one.
the king of all relocation cases. We just got like almost $20,000 in fees delivered to us yesterday. Where mom marries, she divorces my client and they have a kid. She marries a service member, moves to Texas, and basically tells my client, the father, sorry, and then doesn't tell us where she is. And in my first text message to her, or first phone call that I recorded, I was like, hey, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. And she lost custody. She paid a whole lot of fees. That's a classic relocation.
She also showed her ass times 15.
Fair enough. Now, she did one thing right. If you're going to move away, sanctify the relationship by marriage. Don't just go live with your boyfriend. She married the guy, because it's hard to look at somebody and go, I'm not going to entertain this relocation case, but you married him. So she did that right.
He got PCS to Bliss, right?
It was Fort Bliss, which is like as far away in Texas as you can get. It's almost in Mexico.
It's geographically as far.
literally, it's almost a Mexico.
Yeah, it's almost. You and I went to Bliss one time. You and me. We saw the donkey and all that. Anyway, we didn't tell you about that. Relocation cases suck.
Yeah,
because oftentimes they're driven by external factors and they're painful.
And it gets you to the game show because you really sometimes never know what judge is going to do.
That's right.
That's right, because it totally reopens it and it's a flip of a coin.
That's right.
And a lot of times judges are not happy. And, we talk about a lot of these occur, like Steve says, where somebody gets engaged, one of our parents gets engaged, or it's a new relationship, or they get married to somebody else. And that's something, you got to really think about. Be careful. If you're a parent, be careful getting remarried, because those new relationships almost always come with baggage. And can create problems.
You can even have, though, I've recently had a relocation case that was within the state. It was within 10 miles. But you start switching schools. You start looking at but they had 50-50.
Let us not forget that on opposite sides of Atlanta, with 6+ million people, can be a relocation case.
Yeah.
Let us also not forget that depending on how much swampland you want to count, Georgia is either the largest or second largest state east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, it is in Florida.
I mean, when you cross the Tennessee border at Chattanooga,
That sounds right.
and you want to drive to the sub-base, what is the drive time from Chattanooga, the border crossing, Ringgold, Georgia, in the mountains? Basically to Kings Bay. That's got to be 8 hours.
6.5, 7 hours.
No, I bet it's 8. I'll bet it's 8. Well, from here to Kings Bay is 5 hours.
10.
No, here to Kings Bay is probably 5.5 to 6.
And it's 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Well, are we going to Savannah and then going south?
Right. Good point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Are we going direct or are we going to Savannah? It's a big damn state. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had the case recently, like I said. Mom, they had 50-50 custody. Mom moved a few miles further away, which of course was into the next county, changed the kids' schools, all of that, and made dad's commute exponentially longer. And it wasn't fair to the kids. So, in fact, we filed to modify because the 50-50 wasn't going to work anymore.
Your client was the one that moved?
No, my client didn't.
Okay.
My client was like, this schedule doesn't work. This isn't best for the kids.
Yeah, and we've been talking about relocation cases where it's the primary custodian who's relocating, out of state. What if it's the secondary custodian who just has visitation that's moving out of state? Should they modify?
Yes.
Yeah, generally.
Well, yes and no, maybe.
Depends on how far you're moving, right? If you've got every other weekend and you're in Alabama and you can still make it work, let it be. If you're in Texas, for example, and now you're like, 2 weekends a month is way more expensive. I don't have the time because I'm going to have to fly on Friday, fly back Sunday. It's too much.
If you don't modify, what you're running into is the other parent filing a modification against you for more money because you're not exercising. So if you codify the change with an update, basically modification of the agreement by update, then you prevent that from happening.
Exactly.
But you know what I learned a long time ago from Judge Roper out in Augusta, Columbia County, Richmond, is unlike Muskogee down at Fort Benning, where they have just as many military people, they don't do this, but up in Augusta, they do this. They have a parenting schedule A and B. And A will be like if the parent lives within like 100, 150 miles of the fort.
I do that a lot.
Because I picked it up in Augusta, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but we may have spread it through the firm. But now we often do tiered and you can do that with visitation,
Yeah, you can.
as long as you don't flip-flop custody,
Right.
Because then
as long as it doesn't fundamentally change.
that's a topic for another podcast there. But yeah, and it's an important thing to notice because Junior can be affected by this stuff. Junior.
That's
Junior's Junior.
you have an ugly kid.
Yeah, Junior's got hella hair
I do
going.
not have an ugly kid. My daughter's beautiful.
Oh, I'm talking about Junior.
Junior's not my kid. He's my prop.
Oh, okay.
I still got a price tag on it.
But does the same standard apply to the secondary custodial parent who's relocating? Do they have to have a damn good reason?
To modify it.
No.
To modify parenting time? No.
They just have to do it not more than once in 2 years.
That's 2 years, right?
Legally, I'm not talking about legally. I mean, in the eyes of the judge, is the judge going to look at them and say, "You're moving to Alaska just because you want to,
Oh, no.
live in Alaska"?
No, judges are not going to be anywhere near this harsh on the non-custodial parent because they're going to say, listen, it's probably not the best for the kid to see you less, but also you're not trying to fundamentally change where the kid primarily
Yeah,
resides.
and we need to have something that plays into.
I would disagree with you because I would say if somebody's just moving just cause, it's like, do you not want to be part of your child's life?
That is the
Depends on
question.
how involved they were in the first place, though.
That is the question. How involved were you in the first place? Why are you moving? And why are you sacrificing contact with the child for
right.
what
What's the
other
purpose?
draw? Yeah,
Right.
what-
Well, look, Patty, it kind of goes to what you were talking about a minute ago. Okay, the judge, even if that's what it is, judge can go ahead and order more child support based upon parenting time.
yeah.
As they're going to be exercising less parenting time, so they can say, no, here, support needs to be higher.
So,
So
Of course they are, but that's also something a judge could say, look, I don't think that this is a necessary move for you, and
And what I've done in those kinds of cases, instead of doing just a travel deviation, is a retroactive deviation because it's speculative whether or not the parents
they're actually going to exercise it anyway. It's that
there's a retroactive.
if you actually exercise that parenting time, then you get a credit.
it's not necessarily retroactive. It's
retro to the prior month.
It's a credit.
credit.
Yeah.
You get
I
credit.
thought that was contrary to the law. I thought child support had to be a set amount.
Yeah, but you can also
You can do just about anything as long as you
as
agree.
long as parties are agreed to it. Yeah, but you
Here's
should do a deviation.
Here's the one thing, and that's good. I learned something from you. Here's the one thing I would say. This podcast segment, different than a lot of others. This was unique. If people are listening and they're thinking about a relocation, I would definitely call an attorney before you do anything.
Before you make that decision,
Rethink
before
it.
you
Yeah.
commit,
Right.
you better have a good reason.
Don't withhold the information from the other person.
Yeah. But there's good reasons. It should be also good reasons for the child, not just, I need this. I need this for my mental
But
health.
Right.
and I know that what I'm about to say will stray into a topic that we need to keep separate, which is
We're not talking about Waterworld.
Yeah.
Again.
Like, dude, let it go.
Yeah.
let it go.
It sucks.
Anyway.
That girl in Waterworld,
Anyway.
the one that she reminds me of Jimmy's mom. Thank you. I just can't remember.
Sorry, Mom.
Well, with no teeth. No.
Oh my God.
No, I'm sorry, Jimmy. I'm just kidding. I'm really sorry to your mom because she's a nice lady. You deserve it. She doesn't. All right. So the point being,
Can't argue.
people look at us like, we got to edit that out. No.
Let it be. Let it be.
Here's the point.
Listen to your mom flowers.
Here's the point, though. If you're going to relocate with the child, and just think, well, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get some backlash, but I see it more often than not. The person who gave birth to the child thinks, I'm going to do what I want to do, and
Whatever.
yeah, and then you get a rude awakening. I've had a judge. I can think of one case in particular.
Okay.
One case in particular down in Muskogee, down in Columbus, Georgia, where the judge said, nope, you can bring that child back here.
Yep.
You don't have to stay, but you can bring that child back.
Yep.
And I've had that.
You're
I've
welcome
had-
to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that strays into conversations about the Uniform Child Custody Act, which we'll get into in another podcast. But
Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction.
and Enforcement
I
Act.
was keeping it short. I know what it is.
Could have just said UCCJA if you're trying to keep it short.
Yeah, but people don't know what that is all the time.
But they will. They will know.
Yes.
Listen to the
In the
podcast.
future, they'll also know a lot more about Jimmy's mom. But in any event,
What are you doing against Jimmy's
I like
mom?
Jimmy's sick.
I think he's just trying to give Jimmy some shit.
One of these episodes, we're gonna have Jimmy's mom instead of Jimmy.
She's going to sit there and go, say some shit now.
I wish she would say some shit now. That would be hysterical.
Your dad would shoot me.
Nah.
And anyway, The point, I like Tucker. The point is, if you think you're just going to pick up and relocate to Idaho with the kid, you may be in for a rude awakening that does not go well for you. That is a great time to call an attorney on the front end.
Yeah.
And not just assume because you gave birth to the child that no one's going to
because you have primary custody on paper.
Right.
And one of these days, we'll talk about international relocation cases, which then, pull in the Hague Convention.
Are we about to wrap up with this episode? As we're about to wrap up with the Shewmaker Lewis podcast, I just want to say I have a hero of the week.
Not back on there.
I mean, we're still on audio. It's fine. Just, don't do anything too crazy.
I have a hero of the week, and it might come as a surprise to you. Brace yourself.
All right.
My hero of the week is an attorney out of Marietta that you all know,
Okay.
and her name is Rebecca McLaw.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why. Rebecca did a classy thing.
Tell me why.
Okay. Rebecca did a classy thing that we all should do more of. It's kind of an old world, 20th century kind of thing.
What, she wrote you a letter?
No, she called me up and she said, "Hey, can I take you to lunch?"
Some home shit right there.
And I said, "We don't have a case together or anything like that." And she says, "No, I just want to have lunch and just chat." So we met up in like the Milton area, nice restaurant. We drank Riesling. Each of us had a glass. Lunch was on her. She took me to lunch. It was
very nice.
And we just talked about stuff. And we don't do that enough as attorneys.
That's true.
And Rebecca, good lady, can be a very, very tough litigator to practice against. And it left me feeling very good. So my shout out for the week, my hero of the week is Rebecca.
White girl wasted.
Oh my God, I hate you guys. Why am I partner with y'all? No, but Rebecca McLaw is so good attorney, good lady. So I reach out to her. All right, are we done with this episode?
I think we're done with it. Well,
Why
this
don't
is
you
Patty's
wrap
episode.
Oh, Patty, wrap it up for us.
We're done.
Put it in a little box.
Peace out, Shewmaker Lewis. Bam.
That's it for this episode of Lawyers Without Billboards. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources or to get in touch with us, visit shewmakerandlewis.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.